In this video, I'm going to be talking about chronic respiratory issues. So with this, we're looking at things like asthma, cystic fibrosis, COPD, bronchitis, and emphysema. Some of these are very serious issues, all of them. When talking about chronic respiratory issues, each of these is a little bit different in their severity, their cause, and what exactly is going on. But for this purpose, it's easy to group them all together because most of them are a combination of inflammation in the airways causing airway constriction and just difficulty breathing, mucus and or mucus buildup. So with asthma, the primary aspect is airway constriction, but we do have a small mucosal aspect as well. And asthma can be triggered by a variety of different things: allergies, exercise, other environmental triggers like smoke, cigarette smoke, campfires, things like that. With asthma, it affects a wide range of people. Children often suffer with asthma. Thankfully, a lot of people grow out of it, but some don't. Things like COPD are kind of on the other end of the spectrum. Most people aren't going to be growing up with COPD. It's more of a, asthma is typically a little bit more childhood. COPD is typically a little bit more middle-aged to elderly. And it has three big components. That is bronchitis, or airway constriction, and mucus. And then there's emphysema. The emphysema aspect of COPD. And it can be a combination of the three, one, two, all three in some cases. And everybody's a little bit different in the severity as well. But again, it comes down to airway constriction, not being able to breathe, mucus blocking the airway. And if you've ever experienced that in any form, it can be very scary. CF, cystic fibrosis, is our last one here, and it is typically more of a childhood disease. It is a genetic condition, and it's not solely respiratory, but many of the symptoms are respiratory: mucosal buildup, airway growth, and inflammation. But there's also different characteristics. But primarily with halotherapy or salt therapy, we're focusing on the respiratory issue. And it is primarily mucus buildup. So with cystic fibrosis, I know I had a couple friends growing up who had cystic fibrosis, and I know they did breathing treatments every day, and as do most kids with CF or adults now. The lifespan is thankfully lengthening just across the board as medicine and just technology and knowledge gets better about cystic fibrosis and how to treat it. But one of the things that has come about more recently is doing hypotonic saline solutions as a breathing treatment for cystic fibrosis. And it has shown to be able to thin out the mucus so that you're more easily able to get it up and out of your system, open up the airways so that you can breathe. And that's kind of what halotherapy does. You're breathing in the salt, it's coating your whole respiratory tract, drawing that fluid to it, that then thins out and breaks up the mucus so your body can more easily move it. We have these things called cilia in the lungs, that they're constantly moving mucus up and out of our lungs and into our esophagus so that we either cough it up or it goes into our GI tract. And the salt helps to expedite that process. And so with cystic fibrosis and bronchitis, it helps to get that mucus up, as well as asthma. But the second part with these conditions is the inflammation. And with the salt is pulling fluid to it. And so where's that fluid coming from? Some of it is atmospheric, but a lot of it is coming from the cells in our respiratory tract. The salt's pulling water out of the cells, reducing the size of the cells, decreasing inflammation. And so while that does touch on many different aspects, asthma, cystic fibrosis, bronchitis, COPD, those are some of the big ones. And that anti-inflammatory characteristic that it has, there's been a study more recently that has shown that the salt, whenever we have inflammation, it's caused by something. Our body has an inflammatory response to something, and the salt pulling that fluid out of the cells reduces the size of the cells, decreasing inflammation, but it also helps to temporarily reverse that inflammatory response. And so that's something a little bit newer that has come about, our knowledge of it. And as time goes on, more studies will be done, and we'll have an even better understanding of how all these various things work. But with these chronic respiratory issues, it's the inflammation and mucus helping to open up, clean out those airways so that you can breathe. Next time, we're going to be talking about my personal story with asthma, as well as some of my family members' experiences with halotherapy.